Hello again, I am Blunty. I just got back from seeing Avatar: The Way of Water. Avatar 2, in other words. It's taken, what, 13, 14 years for this sequel to come out? And James Cameron has been promising it for at least 7 or 8 years now. Every year or two he comes out and says, oh, we're still working on it, we're still working on it. It's finally here. So a sequel that took 13 years to get here, you'd expect it to be spectacular, wouldn't you? You'd expect it to be amazing. He's had so long to work on this movie. I mean, he had plans for the sequels before the original movie launched. And you know, he's had 13 more years since that movie launched to tinker with the ideas and concepts and story and characters and setting and effects work that build Avatar: The Way of Water. So it's got to be one of the best films ever made, right? No, it's fucking terrible. It is one of the biggest regrets I've ever had over ticket price in going to a cinema. Avatar 2, which is how I'll be referring to it going forward because the full title is long and clumsy, much like the movie, but is James Cameron at his absolute most self-indulgent worst. He is one of those people who has had enough success in his life. He seems to only surround himself with people who will not tell him no. And don't get me wrong, it's success he has earned through hard work. He has done some good stuff. I mean, we all love Terminator 2, don't we? The other Terminator movies, not so much. So was Terminator 2 just a fluke? The Abyss was pretty good. But what do you remember about The Abyss? They were underwater. There was the big watery face. You remember anything about the story? You remember the mouse in the pink liquid? Remember the story? I've seen that movie like 5 times. I couldn't tell you the story. But the good news is you don't have to remember the story after you watch Avatar 2. Because it's a real easy story to remember. Because it's exactly the same story he told for the first movie, which itself is Fern Gully / Pocahontas ripped off, basically. And that's what James Cameron is a terrible, terrible filmmaker. He is an excellent cinematographer. The movie looks wonderful, kind of, for the most part, in a still frame. You know, it's beautiful. The effects work and all the water looks spectacular. And we all know James Cameron's a big sort of, you know, ocean obsessed guy. So it, you know, it looks great, and the CGI characters, a bit of uncanny valley stuff going on there. It's a bit weird sometimes, but the same was true of the original movie. You can move past that if the suspension of disbelief is strong enough. That's fine. I'll mention at this point I haven't made any notes. I haven't written a proper review for this because, frankly, I feel like that's a waste of my time in putting in the effort to make a proper, structured review for this movie because James Cameron didn't put in the effort to make a movie. He made an effects reel, is what he made. He retold the same fucking story from the first one, which is, you know, a group of noble savages, which is the horrible trope he leans into with these movies. And then the white people come and they want the special thing. In the first movie, it was unobtainium. In this movie, it's a gland, some juice from a gland from a big whale thing. That's all they kill the entire whale and they just take the juice out of its brain. Oh, and that's a statement about how wasteful, you know, industrialism and commercialism is, and white people are coming in and wrecking the environment for just this one little thing. And oh, it's a strong political statement there, James Cameron. But it is a statement you made in the first movie. The white people come back for no apparent reason. You know, they're kicked off the planet entirely in the first movie. Then they just appear back and just set up base and decide to start harvesting whale brain stuff. And they want the whale brain stuff because it, what does it do? Does it matter? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It stops the aging process in humans, like forever and permanently. It's immortality juice. Whale brain immortality juice is what they're trying to harvest. This is a universe where interstellar space travel, faster than light travel, is capable of happening. And they can grow enormous hybrid clones of alien human mixed species hybrid, even though one can't exist in the environment for the other for very long. Inherently incompatible biology, but you know, they can smoosh them together and make a clone. And in the sequel movie, they don't have avatars anymore. They just copy the brainwaves of a person and put it in the clone permanently, which has allowed Cameron to do one of the laziest things he's ever done, and that's just resurrect characters he killed off in the first movie. You remember all those big important deaths of those main characters, like the main bad guy, military guy, who was fighting in the robot thing, slashes down his face. Nobody remembers what his name is. Nobody cares. Just bad white military guy. Yeah, he's back, but now he's blue because they cloned him and put his brain in the blue alien clone thing. So none of the deaths matter. Sigourney Weaver is back, kind of, in a little weirdo way that they never bother explaining. Apparently, her avatar was magically pregnant when she died, but the avatar body stayed alive and carried through the pregnancy in a kind of comatose pregnancy thing, and now her child's out there with magical powers to be able to connect to the planet at all times and sense the god entity that lives in all the trees. So anyway, the white people come, they want the rare thing, and they hassle the tribe for it. And, the military guy is back, and he's got a hard-on for revenge, even though his brain was copied before he died, so he doesn't really remember being killed by Jake. He just told himself through a video message that, oh, Jake killed you, you should be angry about that. And he says, all right, I'm going to be angry about that. And instead of doing his actual job, which was to stop the Na'vi from hassling their, infrastructure when they're trying to harvest all this stuff and set up a big walled city and stuff like that, because, oh wait, the other plot point is, oh no, we fucked up Earth, so now we're going to make this planet a new home for humans, even though humans can't actually breathe the atmosphere on this planet. Seems like a bit of a problem if you're trying to set up Earth 2 Electric Boogaloo. Is the entire population just going to wear masks all the time or just stay indoors? Oh, is that political commentary? No, James Cameron's not that smart. He just hasn't thought this all the way through. He's just throwing things at the wall. It doesn't matter. All he's doing is sewing together a bunch of tropes. That's what this movie is. It is a hodgepodge of tropes. There is no writing in this. Every single plot point, every single beat of the movie, every single character is something you've seen a gajillion times before in countless other better assembled movies. My camera's doing a weird thing. I have to record this segment, then reset my recording stuff. Let's not talk about the whole thing where there's a whole sequence being set up about the health of one character, how they've got a particular health problem or something weird is going on with the way they connect to the world tree and everything, and then they just drop that altogether. They never mention it again. It's set up like a Chekhov's gun kind of thing, like it's going to be a big sacrifice or something that she has to do a thing that's going to put her in danger near the end of the movie to save everybody. No, it never comes up again. Just a dropped plot thread. And it's not the only one, by the way. There are about a dozen plot threads that are clearly just setups for whatever Cameron wants to do next, but they're just left hanging in the air like a smelly turd. That's not what turds do, but they're just left sitting there on the ground like a smelly turd, an unfinished plot point in the movie because they're just there for sequel bait, which is just a terrible way to write. It's awful. And it's not even pleasant to look at. It looks like it should be, with all those special effects, and the entire thing's basically a cartoon because it's almost entirely CGI, of course, which is fine. I watch a lot of cartoons, nothing against that. But he's done the thing where he's gone, oh, we're going to try something new technology for this movie. So it's in 3D, which who cares? 3D adds nothing to it. I saw it in 3D. Meaningless. There's a reason why 3D TVs never took off when they tried to saturate the market with those things, because nobody fucking cares. It doesn't make the movie better just being in 3D. The novelty of it wears off real quick. The novelty of the other gimmick that James Cameron tried, the 48 FPS mixed frame rate presentation, is horrible. Remember when The Hobbit came out in cinemas and the whole thing was at 48 frames per second and everyone hated it because it looked like a soap opera? It had the soap opera effect. Everything looked, way too smooth and floaty and soap opera. I never even saw The Hobbit. Still, to this day, haven't seen The Hobbit. It was just obnoxious to even try to do it in the first place. So I never saw it on principle alone, which I wish I'd stuck to my principles and not saw in this movie because I wasn't gonna. But I got curious, mainly about the mixed frame rate thing, the variable frame rate projection, which is another lie. Because it's not variable frame rate projection, it's projected at 48 frames a second. It's just that for most of the sequences, they double the frames. So it's effectively 24 frames a second, which is what regular movies have been for pretty much all of cinematic history. But James Cameron wanted to justify an expense, I suppose. And he decided to have some of the scenes in 48 frames per second, the high action scenes where they're swooping through things and bits and pieces of the fight scenes, but not the entire fight scene, which is one of the big problems here. If he'd done the entire thing in high frame rate, you probably would have adapted to it. I know some people had problems with The Hobbit, blah, 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 but, You could probably adapt to it. But some of it's in 24, some of it's in 48, and it's not like he did this scene in 48, and this scene in 24, and this scene in 48. No, in the same scene, it switches between the two, which is incredibly jarring. You know when you play a video game, right? And you're running the video game at 60 frames a second. You're loving it. Everything's smooth and glorious and the movement, and it feels responsive. And that's one of the things it's important to run video games at high frame rates because it's interactive. You feel the responsiveness difference between 30 and 60 or 60, 120, whatever it is. A lot of people can't tell the difference visually, apparently. I certainly can. But most people can feel the difference. And when the frame rate is variable in a video game, you feel that too. If the frame rate is dipping and diving and, you know, swelling and throbbing, you feel that. And it feels terrible when you're playing a video game because it messes with how responsive the thing feels, not necessarily how it looks for some people. The movie, of course, is not interactive, so you don't feel it, but you notice it because some scenes or some shots, because again, different shots within the same scene have different frame rates. Some shots, they look like a traditional film. There's a certain amount of motion blur going on. And in the next shot, all that motion blur is gone. Everything looks sort of extra crisp. And look, it's running at regular speed, but looks like it should be slow motion because it has that exaggerated fluidity of movement that you see in slow motion shots. Because again, when you film slow motion, you're doing it at high shutter speed and slowing it down. So there's very little motion blur with that as well. And so it looks really weird when, you know, boats of people hitting rocks in the ocean and all the people are flying out. It looks like a video game. And then you switch back to a different shot and it looks like a movie again. And then it looks like a video game. And it looks like a movie. And it's only exacerbated by the fact that it's CGI, so everything has this kind of surreal look to it anyway. None of it looks real. None of it looks physical. So this 48 frames per second, you know, shot to shot changing, it's immensely distracting. And the movie is 3 hours and 20 minutes-ish long, right? 3 hours 10, 3 hours, I don't know. They showed half an hour of ads in my cinema before the movie started, literally. 17 minutes of local ads, and then 13 minutes worth of trailers before the movie even started. So I'm not even sure how long I was sitting in the cinema, but it was a long fucking time. And I paid a premium for the ticket in the first place. And if you have to show me a half hour worth of ads and charge me $38 for a ticket, how about fuck you? No wonder nobody likes going to the cinemas anymore now that we've had 3 years of, you know, staying at home watching our movies there. I haven't been to the cinema in those 3 years because I got real used to just staying at home and doing movies my way. The only reason I went to see this one at the cinema is because I wanted to see this 48 frames a second thing for myself, for my own eyes, so I could judge it and criticize it from a point of view of experience and not just intuition. Because my intuition was it was going to suck. Because again, when you're playing a video game, beyond playing it, you're playing at 60. Whoosh, beautiful. And then a cutscene happens, a pre-rendered cutscene, or even a in-engine cutscene sometimes, as was the case with Monster Hunter Rise on PC. That had this problem. You're playing the game at 60, cutscene happens, like when you cook your meal in Monster Hunter Rise. That is, for some reason, locked at 30. So when Monster Hunter Rise launched on PC, people were running at 60, lovely. But then all these cutscenes happened at 30, it felt very, very jarring. Because when you switch from one to the other, it feels very, very jarring. Everything looks real different. Things don't look the same when they move. And it's horrible going back and forth between those two things. Any video gamer could have told James Cameron this. Any of them. Because we all find it jarring. Anytime a game does this, you will go to, Twitter or Reddit or forums or, Steam forums or whatever if you hate yourself that much, and everyone will complain about this because nobody likes it because it always feels out of place, and that's what this movie does to you. In these scenes where it keeps switching between 24 and 48 frames per second projection, and it's miserable. And oh my God, does James Cameron need an editor? Speaking of the length, the movie is way too long. There's a lot of sequences in this movie that don't move anything forward. They're not telling the story. They're not even world building in some points. It's just an extended pretty shot for the sake of it being pretty. This is not a movie. This is a tech demo. This is an effects reel. This is a 3-hour-long effects reel. Because massive chunks of the movie are not the movie. The story, the character development, the interactions, the world building, just so much of it could be taken out and change nothing about what the movie is trying to say to you. Nothing. So anyway, Jake is in charge of the militants, attacking the trains of supplies and stuff for the new Earth camp thing. And, military scar guy now in the blue suit without the scar and everything, he comes along and goes, well, your job is to stop Jake. Even though you failed to do that last time, we're bringing you back in this expensive new body because we think you can get it right this time. Failing upwards, as it would seem, doesn't seem to ring very true from what we would know about how people were treated when they failed at important jobs and cost very rich people tons of money, for example. Anyway, so they spend more money putting this guy in a cloned body and moving his brain across into it and all that sort of stuff, just for the sake of reviving a character we know. So there doesn't have to be any character development at all. His character through the entire movie learns nothing new, by the way. He does exactly the same thing he did in the first movie. He gets laser vision on chasing down Jake, forgets his actual mission. For some reason, the people giving him orders and commands and spending the money and giving him supplies and organizing equipment and boats and things like that are like, yeah, you go find this guy. I mean, we've chased him off already, so he's not the problem anymore that he was. He was leading raids on our stuff, and now you've chased him off. So problem solved, but no, he wants even more money and resources to go chase this guy down to kill him because he wants personal revenge. I feel like a corporation wouldn't endorse that expenditure, but it happens anyway. So Jake and his family now, and a bunch of kids and whatnot, go to a new tribe of noble savages. The only real difference this time is, his whole family has to learn how to be part of that tribe because they're a water tribe, not a jungle tribe. Very different skill set. So we have the sequence of Jake and his family this time learning how to survive in that world this time, learning how to, dive and things like that, and learning about the glowy fish and learning how to ride the kinds of mounts that they ride instead of the flying dragons that the last set had. It's exactly the same movie over again, beat for beat. Nothing is interesting about seeing this again, except it's moist this time instead of leafy. They even do the thing where, oh no, there's a big dangerous monster, but one of the Jake's kids this time, not Jake himself, but one of Jake's kids this time, tames the big hideous monster that everyone's scared of, and that makes him a special guy now. But of course, nobody listens to him because they all think he's a freak because he has too many fingers. So, there's a bit of reverse racism for the white savior complex kind of thing going on there. Oh, see what you're doing there, James. That doesn't ring horrible at all. So all the tribe is like, ooh, outsiders. Oh, look, they don't know how to do anything. They're like a baby. In the first movie where everyone was going, oh, Jake's like a baby because he doesn't know how to do anything. They say the exact same thing again about his kids in this one. Oh, they're like babies. They don't know how to swim properly because they used to live in a jungle. Why would they know how to swim and dive if they lived in a jungle? Not a skill set they needed. But they get teased for it, and then they do some things on the own respect of the tribe and make friends at last, and we're all friends now. Oh, and here come the white people again to fuck everything all up, so we have to team together, and there's a dramatic moment, and there's they're gonna die, they're in trouble now. The all is lost moment happens, and somebody dies, and Jake's wife, whatever frickin' name is, screams at the death of a person she liked again. Again, exactly the same beats as the first movie had, just played out in moist instead of dirt. And then the big final battle happens, and the military guy and Jake guy go head to head and everything, and I'm bored even describing this. And oh my god, the dialogue. The dialogue, you guys, the dialogue. For some reason, all of Jake's kids keep calling every other kid bro all the time. Bro. Bro, dude, bro. Where did they pick that up from? Some of them use military jargon from time to time. They picked up that up from their dad because that's how he talks. He's a Shahid. He talks military talk. So they picked that up from him when he was teaching them how to, fight and hunt and protect and stuff like that. He would have used those terms, And when they're on raiding parties and stuff, he would use military type commands to organize everybody. So it's quite natural they would use those terms where other Na'vi might not commonly use those terms. Where did they pick up this bro stuff from? Did James Cameron just look at Twitter a few times and how do the kids talk these days? And look up a bunch of underage kids and they use the word bro a fair bit. I know, I'll have all Jake's kids just use bro all of the time until it gets incredibly annoying and horrible. None of these kids sound like actual people. They sound like caricatures of a boomer trying to write what he thinks kids talk like. And there is no nuance in any of it. It's a complete It's a Saturday morning cartoon of writing. You know, all the big evil guys are mustache-twirling evil guys. They know they're being, look at how disrespectful we are to the environment. Humans, yay! Aliens, boo! Let's just bomb them completely. And there's one like marine biologist. It's just like, oh, this is a bit awkward. I'm a marine biologist. I like marine animals, and here I am teaching them how to hunt this wow thing so we can get the brain juice. And I feel awkward about that. But it makes lots of money, so I guess morals be damned. I won't stand up to anybody this whole movie long, even though there's constant shots of me looking awkward and concerned about it. Oh, is he going to speak up at some point? Is he going to stand up for his own moral tone here? Is he going to flip and start protecting the wildlife he's spent his entire career learning how to study? No, he never does. He just looks a bit concerned from time to time. That's his entire character. Oh, I wish they wouldn't hunt the whales. I'm not going to say anything though, because money. He makes a joke about that's why he drinks at one point, so that's healthy. Oh yeah, it's really upsetting, but it's okay because I drink. Character development. Well done, James. If you see anyone praising this movie as an amazing cinematic experience, one of a few things is happening. Either they're an idiot, have never seen any films ever, are 7, or all of the above. Probably all of the above. An idiot 7-year-old who has never seen any other films, doesn't know any better. Or, as happened with the first Avatar movie, it is so immensely spectacular in its presentation. It's razzle-dazzle of looking the way it does, of the way it uses technology, of not looking like any movie you've seen before, visually. People get distracted by that. It's a magician's patter. It's, look over here, look at the pretty woman in the bikini over there, whoop, 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 whoop. And all the stuff is happening over here. Except James Cameron's stuff happening over here is just sewing together tropes and making a 3-hour-long movie that should have been 120 minutes, tops. Don't pay to see Avatar 2 in cinemas. You will regret it. If you don't regret it, I will have lost respect for you, because it's a terrible bit of cinema. Fantastic bit of cinematography from time to time, if you leave out the 48 frames per second stuff, which looks horrible. It's very pretty at times. There are some very gorgeous sequences, and lovely animal design and things like that. That's kind of cool. I always like seeing weird animal designs. But as a movie, as a story, as a collection of characters doing and saying interesting things, as a meta-commentary on society or humanity or anything like that, it fails on every count. It is pathetically bad. I feel sorry for anyone dumb enough to enjoy this movie. So, now I've said my piece, I've got that off my chest, I can move on with my day and think about other things and never ever think about this movie again, because I don't think I'll ever watch this movie again. I might watch it once more when it comes to home video, so I can see it without the 48 frames per second 3D stuff. I imagine that would make the movie even worse, because that will give me even less things to talk about, because most of this video has been talking about that stuff, but that's all bad stuff. You take the bad stuff out, the movie's still going to be terrible underneath, I expect. So I'll probably watch it once more, but I don't expect I'll ever watch it again, because I have so many more movies that are so much better that I could be watching instead of James Cameron's latest self-wank. He needs someone in his life to tell him, no, shut up. Or let someone else write his stuff. Like, let him direct, even though he's a notoriously dickhead director, and there are decades of stories of him being an absolute fuckwit to the people who are working for him. Seriously, go look it up. Start with stories about how The Abyss was filmed. Nobody liked him on The Abyss. He even almost killed a few people. True. But apparently he's mellowed out a bit these days. But still. There's that news story recently that came out. He was calling testosterone a poison, that you should get it out of your body. An essential hormone for some of us. All of us, actually. I don't know what would happen if you got rid of all testosterone from everybody. Because believe it or not, women have testosterone too. It's, part of human biology. But he called it a poison. I kind of think he was blaming testosterone for him being a jackass for most of his life. That's not it, James. You're just a dickhead. You can't blame that on the testosterone. I've got lots of testosterone. I've got my mighty beard. Can't do one of these without testosterone. You know, I never work out and I've got guns. I don't work out. Testosterone does that. I'm not a huge jerk. Well, he's not on the scale you are, James Cameron. Bit of a jerk. But it's not testosterone's fault. That's, you know, I've led a life. I'm bitter about stuff that's happened to me. It's hard, you know. Gone off track slightly. Thanks for watching. I am Bloody. Catch you next time. Thanks as always to the patrons up above there. Hopefully none of those people will spend their money going to see Avatar 2 and continue to give it to me instead. That's a mixed message.